Well, thank you everybody for joining us for today's Stockton Business Forum, Evaluating Community Choice Energy for Stockton. Appreciate you all being here. Let's see here. My name is Woody Hastings. I'm the Energy Program Manager for the Climate Center. And the Climate Center is a nonprofit organization based in Santa Rosa, but we work statewide. And happy to be co-hosting this webinar with the San Joaquin Partnership. Today's presenters, we're happy to have Mayor Michael Tubbs to offer welcoming remarks. We've got Bob Gutierrez representing the San Joaquin Partnership, Davis Harper, our own Stockton Community Outreach Specialist with the Climate Center, Mark Bachman, Account Services Manager for San Jose Clean Energy, and Andrea Case, the Municipal Energy Manager for San Jose. So the agenda today, we will start with remarks from Mayor Tubbs, followed by perspective from the San Joaquin Partnership offered by Bob Gutierrez, and then CCA 101 by Davis Harper for folks. I know there's sort of a mixed group of folks on board today. Some of you are fairly familiar with community choice aggregation. That's where the CCA comes from. The legal term is community choice aggregation. We call it community choice energy and community choice agencies. Then we will have a CCA business customer perspective from Mark Bachman and Andrea Case of the city of San Jose. And then we'll open it up for what this is all about. It's a forum for discussion and to sort of explore and evaluate community choice and how it relates to the business community. Just a few housekeeping items. The session is being recorded. This is a Zoom meeting, not a Zoom webinar. So for best results, you're going to want to set your view onto speaker mode so that when the person who's speaking is speaking, they get bigger on your screen and you can see them more easily. And so you do that with the little there's a toggle in the top for how you view the screen. Enter your questions in the chat at any time. We will try to get to everyone's questions, and then we will open it up to live question discussion at the end. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand in the participant Zoom feature that in most, I think most screens, it's down at the bottom of your screen. So I will now stop my share and we will have Mayor Michael Tubbs to offer his welcoming remarks. I just wanted to, by way of introduction, just say the Climate Center, really appreciates Mayor Tubbs's leadership and help on this issue and understanding it, sort of getting the policy, understood and underway and getting it rolling in the city of Stockton. The Climate Center believes there are a lot of great benefits of community choice energy. So really just want to offer our thanks to the mayor for all his leadership on this. Mayor Tubbs, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Woody. Everyone's been so nice the last 2 days since I wasn't reelected and being very effusive with their kind words. So I thank you for the far too kind introduction. I also want to give some credit to Vice Mayor Wright, who's also been pushing and leading on the council to make sure that we get this done. And I really, this conversation is like every conversation I enjoy having. It's one about the future, about what can be unburdened by what's been. And when we're talking about community choice energy, we're talking about sort of making sure Stockton's part of the 21st century economy, where folks are able to own the power grid, where folks are able to have access to clean energy, and our folks are able to pay their energy bills. And that's the goal, that's the aspiration, but we also understand it's a long way to get there. And it's not a sure path, there's some risk involved, et cetera, but we do know that the status quo isn't working for far too many of our residents. We do know every year there's PG&E rollouts that only increase with the volatility of the weather. That's going to keep increasing due to climate change. We do know that a lot of folks in our community are one paycheck away, one sick day away in most cases from having their utilities shut off, that they can't afford to pay high utility bills and costs. And we do know that the city has an opportunity to join communities across this state in terms of finding an alternative, a new way of sourcing power. So that's why I'm so excited about this work, and I'm looking forward to where it goes. Thus far, we were able to, um, which I'm laughing because it took more effort than it probably than you would think it required, but we were able to receive a grant to begin the process of planning for a CCA. And then recently we just selected a consultant. And now in the next 6 to 8 months, we're looking forward to that consultant coming back with a plan for implementation. How do we do it? So again, it's not a sure thing, it's not a done thing, but it is an aspirational goal, and it's one that the city would be wise to seriously consider. Because again, just from listening to residents, that seems to be a real pain point. And just looking at the state and looking at PG&E, like it's the communities who control their future, who have agency, are those that control their power and are able to make sure that everyone has access to cheap, affordable, clean energy. So again, Woody, you and your team, I thank you for your friendship and partnership. I'm looking forward to seeing where this work goes, and I am more resolute than ever that things like these are necessary to ensure that Stockton is a community full of opportunity for everyone. So again, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Tubbs. Really appreciate those remarks. And let's see. Uh, really appreciate that. And I think we will now go to Mr. Gutierrez for your opening comments, if you'd like.
Well, thank you, Woody, and thank you, Mayor, for all your leadership in this regard. I mean, you've done a stellar job with this, and we want to be here if you guys hadn't led the charge in the conversation. So thank you for that in your comments today. You know, San Joaquin Partnership, like the mayor said, is looking towards the future, and our job is to be a resource for our members and our community and our stakeholders. And so by doing that, we have to be aware and create awareness on new opportunities and how that may impact us and how that might benefit us. And so my objective as president and CEO of the San Joaquin Partnership is to take this opportunity to learn more about how we prepare for our future as it pertains to energy consumption and energy use, and then how to create partners that are going to assist us in that in terms of providing supply and cost structure and things of that nature. So we want to be as prepared as possible for the future as it evolves. And our goal is to make sure that as we're recruiting new businesses that come into this area, whether it be manufacturing, logistics, ag support, technology, we want to make sure that they have a competitive advantage coming here to Stockton and San Joaquin County. And that's issues and opportunities like this that afford us to be a little bit more competitive in a different way. So we're always looking for those opportunities, and I think this is one that you know, we've presented to our board and talked to them about it, and had Davis and Woody share what a CCA is and some examples across the state of where this has been effective. And again, as it evolves and the conversation evolves and the consultant for the city of Stockton comes back with their analysis, we want to be at the ready to respond to whatever it is those outcomes are and what they look like. And then likewise, create an opportunity and a channel of information for our membership and for other users here in the city to realize how do we maximize this type of a benefit, and how can we apply it, and what other you know, benefits are going to be out there that we don't see right now, whether it be energy production and alternative energy uses. These are all new opportunities going to be recruited into San Joaquin County and into Stockton. So again, as our, you know, business evolve, and you know, with COVID, we're still seeing a lot of inquiries for large companies, manufacturers wanting to come to Stockton and the surrounding area. So again, I think this is a great opportunity for us to be prepared to have those conversations with them as they want to come online. So again, I want to thank Woody and Davis and Vice Mayor Wright and the mayor for leading this conversation and allowing us to be a part of it, and making sure that we had an ability to extend this invite to our members as well. And I shared this morning at our board meeting that we were going to be doing this today, and I'm glad that we're recording it, because a lot of them said, I won't be able to attend today, but I definitely want to know what the outcome was. And so we'll be redistributing this and posting it on our website for future review. So I look forward to the conversation today and what we're able to get out of it, and continue to create that awareness. So thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very much for that perspective, Bob. And you're right. It really is about opportunities. That's, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to host this forum. It's not, as the mayor said, it's not a done deal and it's not without risks, but like a lot of things that offer opportunities, there are risks involved and challenges and whatnot, but it is about opportunities. Before I hand it off to Davis for his presentation, there was a slide I actually neglected to cover, and it's for folks that maybe are new to the Climate Center, and sort of what is the Climate Center's role? How and why are we interested? First, we always want to say the Climate Center is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have no commercial interest. We don't have a contract with the city. We're independently funded. And so we do this as a matter of public policy advocacy, seeing it as a means of reducing greenhouse gases, but it does have a lot of what we call co-benefits. The Climate Center began evaluating community choice in 2005, and we led the effort. Our experience in this is being in the trenches. We led the effort to launch what became the second community choice agency, Sonoma Clean Power, in 2014, and we've been working statewide since 2013 around the state in Silicon Valley, San Jose, now the Central Valley since 2016. So that's sort of our place, our role. And with that, I would now like to hand it off to Davis. If you'd like to share your screen, Davis, I think you're up next for your presentation.
All righty, can everybody see my screen okay?
I see it.
Good thumbs up, all righty. So move this over here. So yeah, my name is Davis Harper, and I'm the San Joaquin community organizer for the Climate Center. And so we've talked kind of briefly about this new program called Community Choice Energy that the city of Stockton is looking into. And I'm just going to be giving kind of an overview, do my best to explain what it is and relevant updates and timeline and kind of why we're here and why we're hoping to engage with the business community as well. So what is Community Choice Energy? This is a local program that's enabled by California state law that what it does is essentially allows counties and cities to buy electricity and generate electricity for businesses and residents. It essentially creates this not-for-profit, locally based electricity provider, and it offers a new choice in electricity provider. And that's kind of a key term that I'm going to be continuing to say throughout this presentation because it is a choice. It's not a new municipality taking over. It's a new choice. So, and how Community Choice Energy works is you have the CCA being responsible for buying and building electricity supply and then setting the rates for that electricity. By no means is it a municipality. This is not taking over distribution infrastructure. That responsibility stays with PG&E, who's still in charge of delivering the energy, maintaining their lines, and billing customers. So again, kind of continuing on that point, Community Choice Energy is a hybrid between existing energy models. So we have the investor-owned utility model, which we understand is what we have for Stockton, where they're in charge of all the facets of the electricity business, from generation to rate setting to line maintenance, customer service, all of it. Similar to a public utility, LA Department of Water and Power, Sacramento Municipal Utility District, they share all these same features where they're in charge of all these operations. With the key differences being that a public utility it's locally based, locally managed by city government and a board of elected officials, and two, it is a not-for-profit program. So Community Choice Energy has those two features in common with the public utility model. Again, they have the ability to get into energy generation, investing in energy projects and energy efficiency programs, as well as deciding what sources of electricity the city would be buying from and setting the rates for that electricity, while PG&E again still is in charge of distribution services, customer billing. So this is a PG&E electric bill. Most of us are likely fairly familiar with this. This top line is what we're talking about when we talk about a CCA. This is an existing line item on your bill that we Stocktonians pay millions of dollars per year through this single line item, and it's for power generation. What funds power purchase agreements on behalf of the city. So this is an existing revenue stream that would become basically redirected to local control if a CCA were to launch in Stockton. So again, just want to highlight, there's not a tax, there's no new costs. It's existing revenue stream. So community choice energy is a growing movement around the state. There are currently 21 community choice agencies that have formed. It's only 10 years old. So the first CCA formed in 2010. And over that time, so we've seen 160 cities, about 20 counties, hundreds of elected officials, and over 11 million customers being served, about half of California's electricity load in 2020. And so to put all of that in context, I want to talk like why the city of Stockton is interested in potentially pursuing this. There's a slew of benefits that are fairly general across the board that many CCAs have seen. And to kind of help explain this, first one, community tailored programs, the ability of CCAs to launch specific programs to address specific needs in the community. I want to kind of just explain the business model of a CCA. So by aggregating the electrical loads of cities and counties, CCAs have more leverage in negotiating power purchase agreement rates with suppliers. So in doing that, they're able to generate reserve funds very quickly and still keep rates lower than or similar to the existing utility. And being not-for-profit and locally based, many CCAs have used those reserve funds to reinvest into their service areas, again, with tailored programs to meet specific community needs. And I'm going to give more examples of what those have looked like over the past 10 years. But the key thing to keep in mind is no one CCA is formed in the same way, and they can be extremely innovative in their programming, and it's all going to depend on the willpower of the governing board and community input to that board. So definitely keep that in mind as for the rest of the presentation. Again, I'd mentioned that the 21 CCAs in the state have been offering cleaner power at competitive rates across the board. So most, if not all CCAs have been able to offer at least very similar to or lower than PG&E's power generation rates. They've also been able to provide more stable rates, so they're not coming back multiple times per year to ask for rate increases. Another big benefit is there is this local control and transparency in basically giving decision-making power in energy decision-making to local control. You have a board of elected officials that is now calling the shots on where your electricity supply is coming from, and they're still subject to California's open meeting laws. You have public agendas. You can look up the financials of any of the 21 CCAs. It's all on the record, immediately available. So that's another huge benefit in an arena that, a lot of money we're spending, that an entity is basically spending on behalf of us. We get more transparency into what that process looks like, what our money is being invested in. There have been tremendous local economic benefits with the CCAs over the past 10 years as well. They've supported the formation of 4,200 jobs, and a lot of that's been in renewable energy projects. They've actually just, I think in the last couple of weeks, announced that they had collectively across the state, CCAs have secured over 6,000 megawatts in renewable energy projects. So that's a huge kind of milestone achievement. And some CCAs have prioritized more than others, making sure that local job creation in that sector is a major priority. So another major priority that many CCAs have focused on is improving air quality and improving energy resilience. So on the air quality piece, many have electric vehicle rebate programs to help incentivize installation of electric vehicle infrastructure, charging infrastructure. Similarly, in terms of making communities more energy resilient, many have launched incentive programs for helping businesses install solar and battery storage systems. So touching a little bit more on that, what CCAs are doing to help businesses save money. Again, there's 21 CCAs and they're all doing different things, but I pulled a couple key examples. Net energy metering, this is a program that PG&E has as well, where a business has solar and the electricity that their solar panels generate, they're able to sell back to PG&E essentially and offset the costs of their energy bill. So many CCAs have offered higher rates for what they're selling back to the CCA, what a business is selling back. So therefore, you're just getting more of a cost decrease because your panels the electricity goes farther, right, on a kilowatt hour basis. So they've also offered cost incentives, again, as I mentioned, for solar and battery backup installation, which coupled with a higher net surplus compensation rate in your net energy metering program, again, shaving down costs. Incentives for electrifying transportation, especially for businesses that have a transportation element or vehicle fleets that are looking to electrify but have never really had the means. CCAs have worked with those kinds of customers as well. So again, certainly all possibilities. CCAs and COVID-19, I just wanted to brush this really quickly. Again, being locally based, not for profit, many CCAs have donated, and it's been millions of dollars to COVID-19 relief efforts. That's been through a wide variety of ways, whether it's grants for community-based organizations such as food banks, rate discounts, or even job training programs for utility workers that have been impacted by the pandemic. Again, it's just a good example of a local agency that is, responding in real time to a crisis and meeting the specific needs of their community in a given time. So that's also a major benefit that we're seeing around the state. So this is a very rough number and really not to be quoted or cited probably, but we know that there's roughly $100 million that's leaving the Stockton economy every single year, and that would be redirected to local control with a community choice agency. I'm just going to touch on this really quickly. We mentioned that there's a technical study underway in Stockton looking into the feasibility of community choice energy. Right now, the estimate is that that study will be completed in mid-January 2021, and that a city council vote on whether to move forward could come as soon as March of 2021. And that's basically saying, yes, let's keep going. That's not, we launched service in March, obviously. But so that's kind of what the timeline is at this point. And I just want to throw this on there. You can follow us on social media for more information. I'll drop this info into the chat as well. And so I just want to to conclude, highlight, we're here in hopes that, we can educate and encourage business customers to, become engaged early on and just, be paying attention to what's going around the state, looking at what other CCAs have been able to do, just basically encouraging business customers to stay focused on the process. And yeah, thank you so much for letting us speak here, and happy to take any questions at this point.
Thanks, Davis. Very good. We also have with us Mark Bachman. We'll start with Mark and Andrea Case from City of San Jose. But Mark, why don't you go ahead and start off and tell us a little bit about the business customers with the City of San Jose and what are some of the dynamics there?
Sure, and I will throw up a few slides as well. Nice to see everyone. It's great to be able to share a little bit about what we've been doing at San Jose Clean Energy. Previously, before working at San Jose Clean Energy, I worked at Monterey Bay Community Power in a very similar role, which is now Central Coast Community Energy. So I've been working in launching and starting up community choice programs for about 3 years now. Now I'll go ahead and introduce Andrea. She is our Municipal Energy Manager for the City of San Jose. So she has phenomenal experience managing the energy for a wide array of facilities, from our City Hall to a lot of our more operational facilities. And she digs deeper into the bills and has more experience working with the PG&E rep than probably almost any customer that I've worked with before. So really happy that she's able to join us as well. For the City of San Jose, let me start sharing a little bit about sort of where we are as an agency. I think we're probably a good role model for Stockton in a lot of ways. Let me know if you can see my PowerPoint.
Looks fine, Mark. I can see it.
Great. Because most community choice programs are part of a joint powers authority. So that's, a county and the cities inside of it coming together. We at the City of San Jose are the only single entity community choice program currently operational. City of San Diego will be launching their own community choice program as well. But I believe that's the model that Stockton will be looking at as well, as a single entity forming an agency. It's definitely a little bit different. We report directly to our city council rather than to a joint powers authority board. And so I think it's definitely a little bit different, and there are some sort of unique differences being a department within a city rather than a JPA serving multiple jurisdictions. This, I think, was covered really well by Davis, but it's just something to remember that our customers at San Jose Clean Energy are still PG&E customers. They still receive distribution service from PG&E. What we're doing is we're sourcing the power on their behalf. So when customers get their bill, our generation costs for actually buying the power and the environmental attributes is listed separately from PG&E's costs, which are the distribution costs. And I think that relationship is a really important one to talk through. One of the questions we get very often is, do I lose anything with PG&E, or what is the relationship with PG&E? So, and it can definitely be non-intuitive. So I think it's something to definitely clarify and sort of repeat that for the most part, from a business customer's perspective, and in City of San Jose, we have tens of thousands of business customers, hundreds of thousands of residential customers. Where we are right now is we've currently enrolled about 330,000 customers. We are finishing up our enrollment in January of next year. We're finishing up the residential solar customers. We've got just about a 2% opt-out rate, which is pretty good and pretty standard for community choice. What you've seen over time is more and more customers, as the understanding of what community choice is becomes more commonplace, fewer people are opting out. So over time, as more programs have launched, you've seen those participation rates improve and the opt-out rates improve as well. And so we serve customers, whether they're data centers, whether they're small mom and pop restaurants or residences, as I've said before. Previously, when I've worked in Monterey Bay, we were serving large agricultural customers, large industrial customers. And for the most part, it's a very similar experience for all customers. Whether you're a homeowner or a business, there's very little issue during enrollment. Most customers don't notice, aren't aware that a change has happened. And it's one of the real strengths of community choice is that there's this really large improvement. You've got huge amounts of money being kept in the community. Customers are seeing savings on their bill. A huge amount of power is being sourced from more renewable resources than under standard PG&E service. And all of that really happens without a customer having to do anything, or without a customer having to even really notice or understand it. Those benefits just occur automatically. Obviously that process where customers are defaulted into the CCA service rather than opting in, that certainly rubs some people the wrong way. And so pretty much, I would say the vast majority of that 2% that opts out is residential customers who don't like that process or resent that process. So that's where you get most of that opting out. Really, no customers lose out. All of the benefits that you receive as a PG&E customer, access to their representatives, discounts, programs, rates, all of that remains the same. And so it's why the community choice model is so effective and powerful, is because we're able to make these big improvements without requiring, a major change from the customers. Oh, and I will say as well, we have about 1,500 of our customers who choose to opt up and receive 100% of their energy sourced from renewable resources. I think it's also worth explaining a little bit about what a CCA is doing on the back end. So we have a power services team that at launch is sourcing all of the power and all of the renewable attributes for the customers on the wholesale market. So they're buying short-term contracts to meet the demand. A lot of people assume, we're buying from PG&E and reselling. That's not true. Community Choice is buying on the wholesale market, just like PG&E's resources team buys on the wholesale market. Over time, and our team has done this really quickly, is we want to supplement just buying on the wholesale market with actually building new projects. So even though San Jose Clean Energy just started serving residential and commercial customers in February of 2019, we've already signed contracts for 487 megawatts of new solar and wind generation. So those are projects that aren't built yet, that are going to be new resources put onto the grid. And this is where CCAs play a really important role in moving the state economy forward in terms of decarbonization, because we're getting a lot more projects built, getting a lot more renewable resources, primarily in California, built to serve community choice programs. And the number is somewhere between 3 and a little bit more than 4 gigawatts of new renewable generation resources have been contracted by CCAs. So we've become a major force in terms of renewables and getting new projects built. We're also doing some innovative work. One of our projects is actually a shaped PPA, where with solar plus storage, we're actually guaranteed firm power for 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So innovative, really important work. And as we buy more long-term renewable contracts, more projects, that benefits our finances, that gives us more of that revenue to be able to keep into the city and either reduce costs directly or fund more programs. And so I won't spend too much time on this. We launched with a really conservative 1% discount. The discount rate that other CCAs are providing their customers goes up to about 5 or 6%. We're on the lower end with just 1%, because as a new CCA, we want to be able to be really conservative and make sure that we can build up our reserve funds to get creditworthy, to get a credit rating, to be able to improve our finances, to be able to fund more projects, and basically have a rate stabilization fund. But those programs are doing things like helping electrify transportation, helping electrify the building stock, and all of that helps reduce air pollution as well. So there's a big greenhouse gas component, obviously, that's hugely important, but it also just helps improve air quality as well. So I really do want to share this, because I think towards the end of my presentation, I'll try to give just a few quick words on sort of what is, from a customer's perspective, some benefits that don't necessarily show up in a high-level presentation, and what are also some challenges. And this will relate to that a little bit. So what you see on the right is how Stockton customers are paying their bills today. They pay PG&E for both the generation charges and the transmission and delivery charges on the bottom. On the left-hand side is what it looks like for our San Jose Clean Energy customers. So the bottom line, the distribution costs to PG&E are totally unchanged. But instead of paying PG&E for the generation charges, your San Jose Clean Energy has our own generation charges. That's what comes to us as an agency from our customers paying their electricity bills. But that other big section on top is the PG&E fees. So these are basically legacy costs from PG&E that the PUC has set up so that to avoid cost shifting, so more than half of PG&E's load is now served by a community choice program. And if all of those customers didn't have to pay for PG&E legacy costs, those costs would be unfairly shifted onto the remaining customers. But you can see it's a huge percentage, and there's a lot of, it's a big fight in front of the PUC on how is that fee calculated, what goes into that fee, what are the rules around that, and there's a lot of conflict between the community choice programs and other customers who have left PG&E service and the IOUs, the investor-owned utilities. And so that's a big area of action for us as an agency, us in collaboration with the other community choice programs. Those fees are going to be a big part of what the consultants for the city of Stockton are evaluating and looking forward, because you can see those constitute 25 to 30% of our equivalent charges. So right now, today, if our customers did not have to pay that fee, San Jose Clean Energy's costs would be 25–30% less than equivalent PG&E service. But because we as an agency and all CCAs manage that cost on behalf of customers, we have to squeeze down our rates so that you still get that discount, you still get that savings. So those fees are primarily the power charge and difference adjustment, PCIA. It's a really important policy area to pay attention to because you can see what a big difference that makes in terms of the actual costs that customers end up paying. So one of the programs that San Jose Clean Energy has already been able to start working on is we've put forward $2 million as part of a total $14 million program to get new electric vehicle charging infrastructure installed in the city of San Jose in areas that haven't necessarily been able to do it as well. That's public accommodations, multi-unit dwellings, so apartments and condominiums and workplaces. And these charging areas are where people really charge during the day. That's going to be a big, important transition that we have to make, is to charge when the sun is shining, when the state of California has lots of solar power on the grid, charge electric vehicles then, rather than in the evening when people come home. The rolling blackout from the CAISO, the California Independent Systems Operator, a few months ago, that was largely due to this huge ramp up in demand when the sun has stopped shining and we don't have as much solar resources available. It was also triggered by fossil fuel plants failing. I think it's, that rolling blackout gets blamed on renewables, but actually it was natural gas plants not being able to operate in high heat that really caused some of those issues. So it's not a very simple, clear picture, but it shows that CCAs are really leading when it comes to moving the California grid forward in a way that works for cities and municipalities and local regions. We're much more tightly tied in with our customers. We're much more able to develop programs that meet San Jose's needs, that respond to our city's climate smart plan. And so this is a really great program that we're happy to be working on. So I'd like to share what are the downsides and risks that customers actually see when they enroll in community service. One is that it can be a little confusing. On PG&E bills, you're now going distribution charges broken out separately from the distribution charges. If you've got an accounts payable team, this can be a little confusing to them. For an average homeowner, they can be uncertain of exactly what they're paying. So I think that additional information has a downside on its own. And that's something that the CCAs work really hard to do, to provide information and resources to both our business customers, but also our residential customers. An additional thing is if you call up your PG&E rep, they're still able to work with you, but they cannot comment on anything CCA related because they actually got slapped with a code of conduct based on some really gray area marketing that they were doing against CCAs, which I'm sure Woody is much more familiar with. So that can also cause a little bit of a customer headache. If they call their PG&E rep and want information about the CCA rate, they're going to get sent over to the Community Choice customer support center. So that can definitely be a headache if you're an average business owner or a resident. And additionally, there's now an additional billing agent. So you still pay one bill, you still pay PG&E, and then they distribute those funds to the CCA on the back end. But the way that the CCA gets their charges on the bill is that PG&E or the IOU sends the charges to the CCA billing agent. They send us the usage, we tell them what the charges are, and they put it on the customer bill. PG&E has a very antiquated billing system, and they don't get those charges to the CCA billing office on time. Sometimes they'll get the usage to the CCA billing office after the bill has already gone out. And so sometimes you have to catch up on bills because that process is inherently a little shaky. And that can just be a complication, especially for small businesses that need to have sort of a regular payment. It doesn't happen very often. Definitely, it can be a point of frustration. The biggest issue is those legacy costs that I talked about. Those remain a really large cost that the CCA manages by lowering its rates for the customer, but it's a major constraint on how quickly we're able to reduce rates. Our 1% discount, we'd love to increase it, but as long as those legacy costs are still on the books and have to be paid by our customers, we have to be more conservative. The good news is those costs are going to eventually fall away in the near future. And as they do, the CCAs get a lot more revenue and a lot more room to reduce costs and fund programs. And so that's sort of the last thing that when I talk to customers as we're launching San Jose Clean Energy, is that you have to sort of have two things in mind at once. And that's, on the one hand, this is a huge improvement. There's enormous local benefits, both in terms of sustainability, but also in terms of savings and programs, but they just take time. When a CCA launches, that's when it's going to have the least benefit to customers. And as that decoupling really takes effect, and especially as those legacy costs fall away, you're going to get more and more benefits over time. So it's a little bit of, on the one hand, this is a great, important, meaningful change, but your day-to-day life is going to look really similar to start off with. And so you have to, I think, set that expectation that this is a long-term benefit and you're really building value over the long term. And so finally, sort of the benefits that customers see that don't necessarily show up at a high-level presentation is you've got a great customer support resource on your side. CCA staff are just going to be a lot more attentive. They're a lot more open and communicative than sort of the PG&E call center labyrinth you can get into. Every CCA has people on staff that can answer a lot of questions on programs, on bills, on rates, on anything. So it's a really great resource for customers. And as a city, you know, our team has been really helpful to the city of San Jose in terms of looking at the PG&E public safety power shutoffs, as we're looking at COVID response that Davis was talking about, as questions of, you know, what is PG&E's future? Our team really becomes a nexus of information and resources for our city. And I know that would happen with Stockton as well. And this isn't, you know, a huge tax increase that has to happen for it. This is staff, and this is a resource that's self-funded through the revenues from the bill. So it's a really important benefit in that way. And again, you know, CCAs are really a well-established model. They're working great across most of California at this point. And those benefits are only going to grow and really snowball over time as those legacy costs end. So we're at a really great time where CCAs can help lead the change for their cities, for their customers, help them get more benefits from wholesale market opportunities, get more benefits from their own distributed energy resources of solar and storage, EV charging on their sites as well. So as a resource, I think that's kind of a soft benefit, but a really important one to communicate. So I'll end there, and we can let Andrea sort of give her perspective as well, and also answer any questions. But I've also included my email if anyone wants to ask any particular questions to me offline. Thank you.
Go ahead, Andrea, for the sake of time. Why don't you chime right in?
Sure. So my name is Andrea. I'm the Municipal Energy Manager at the City of San Jose. And as a business customer of San Jose Clean Energy, we have about 5.5 million square feet throughout the city. So we are a very large electricity customer. And additionally, we have a lot of critical sites throughout the city. So we co-own and operate the wastewater treatment facility. Of course, we provide police and 911 services to our community. We have over 30 fire stations. We do cooling and warming centers. And now in the cluster that is 2020, we have done clean air centers for our community as well. So in terms of from a business customer perspective, the transition from being a PG&E customer to being a San Jose Clean Energy customer really was seamless. It was something that we did know what was coming for a long time, and we were looking forward to. And as Davis had mentioned, the line item in the electricity bill, and Mark mentioned that most customers didn't notice. It really wouldn't, if we didn't know about it and know to look for it because we're energy geeks like that, it really wouldn't have actually probably gotten any questions. We were looking out for it because we were really curious to see that one line on our bill. So Mark spoke a lot about the cost savings, so the 1% discount. So it is hard to detect as our overall energy costs have increased. We generally have seen our usage go up as overall energy costs have increased and as our staffing and capacity has increased in general throughout our sites. But we do have confidence that, you know, the discount is real. San Jose Clean Energy has entire teams of folks that work on the rates, and our cost would be more with full PG&E service. We spend millions of dollars. Multiple departments spend millions of dollars each year on their electricity costs. So it isn't a small discount for us, and in our budget and the uncertainty of the pandemic and how that will all play out, it definitely has helped, and there have been budget proposals around those cost savings. In the future, we look and hope to actually get budget proposals to move to a higher tier of renewables. So that goes into the next benefit of the sustainability. So we have a larger proportion of our generation sourced from renewables compared to PG&E. So we definitely are making more progress, and we see that in our reporting for things like the carbon disclosure reporting and reporting to the Environmental Protection Agency and different kind of sustainability initiatives that we're involved in. So having San Jose Clean Energy has actually been one of the major benefits of reducing the city's greenhouse gas emissions on a whole, and has really helped us kind of put our sustainability efforts into overdrive, and really has been one of the major actions that the city has taken and our city council took to kind of prove our commitment to that sustainability goal. In terms of our service, as Mark had mentioned, we are still eligible for PG&E resources. So any rebates or programs that you're looking at, we're looking at using potentially like the on-bill financing program that PG&E uses. You are still paying into those public purpose funds. So all of that remains the same. We have a PG&E account representative that we meet with monthly and has remained the same. And while we have a great relationship with our PG&E rep, we now have this additional great resource in Mark. So we have another layer of service and support. I know that you all could tell just from listening to his presentation that he has a lot of expertise. He's worked in different municipalities that have done community choice energy. So having another resource, and not only another resource, but another resource that's also in our organization, it always helps to have those open and transparent conversations. So having somebody that when we're in the same building is just a couple of floors above you really helps, or somebody that you can, ping on Microsoft Teams, or shoot a quick email or say, hey, do you have time for a walking break or something. It really helps, and it just makes some of those conversations and questions easier to get answered when they're within your own organization. Their teams have also provided support on other things. So when it has come to public safety power shutoffs, EV charging, the CCA has also provided council study sessions on resiliency. So there have been a lot of projects where we've been able to get a lot of support from them, and they have definitely helped fill an expertise role that we didn't currently or previously, have in the city. So we have a new department that is self-funded. We can turn to for questions about, rates and everything anything on energy under the sun. And eventually, you know, as some of the exit fees go away and things like that, we're going to have significant reserves. And we have so much potential with those in terms of what we provide to our community and the community benefit. So there's a lot of local choice that comes with that. So we aren't part of this huge geographical territory that PG&E has. We really are looking at what's best for the residents and the community of San Jose, and what do we need and how do we invest in our community and what it needs. And in addition to all that, not only do we have, you know, a great account rep in Mark, you know, I want to be honest, but I don't want to upsell him too much because you guys can't have him. We need him to stay in San Jose. And you know, he's a good guy. He's got a great beard, and he's very responsive. So they've really helped in terms of providing an additional resource. We get so many questions from different departments in the city. So really having as many resources to turn to has really been invaluable for us. So building that kind of toolbox for us and doing it in a way that provides all of these additional benefits for you know, the city coffers, for our community, for our sustainability goals. I mean, it's like a win-win-win-win-win situation for us because it just provides these benefits on so many fronts for us.
Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. Both of you, Mark, thanks very much. Andrea, really appreciate it. I learned a few things and got something out of it myself, and I've been doing this for well over 10 years. So thank you. You know, what really bubbles up, and the thing I always like to emphasize is just remember, this is about a new choice. You know, businesses, sometimes with you know, the vendors that they pay, the costs they have to pay, sometimes they have no choice. And in this case, you know, with PG&E Forever, there's been pretty much no choice, and this is a new choice, and a new, as we've heard, collaborator on energy projects and whatnot. We do have a question that's come in from Thomas Padden of CalSTART, and Thomas is asking about whether or not community choice agencies can help with demand charges. This is a biggie for businesses, those spike per month charges. And so, Mark, do you think you could touch on that? I know that there have been some programs. Sonoma Clean Power had a program up and running. I have not updated myself on that in a while, so maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, definitely. So for those who might not know, there are two types of charges customers are mostly paying. Your energy cost, which is your kilowatt hours, it's the volume of power you consume. But as a business customer, you're also getting hit with demand charges, which are basically assessed at what your peak draw for power is at a 15-minute interval over a full month. So there's a couple ways to address, and I mean, these are very challenging costs to address that are, you know, because it's very hard to manage your energy that minutely over a full month. So one way is that just like your kWh charge, your kW demand charge also has a generation as well as a distribution component. So when a CCA is providing a discount, you're also getting that discount on the demand charges as well as on the kWh energy charges. So that's one way, and an important one. The other one is, as CCAs, I think, get more involved in battery storage programs for their customers. So one of the ways that you can probably the financial benefit for business is reducing those demand charges. It's not arbitraging the power at different times of day or providing backup. The number one financial motivator is reducing those demand charges. So I think as CCAs help customers through incentives and programs get more battery storage, I think that's as more customers get battery storage, the CCAs will be in a good position to get additional revenue, to get more storage and other distributed energy resources participating in the market, getting additional revenues to the customer. So I think that's the other way, is sort of as an advocate and a sort of a policy lead within the city, the CCA is going to be able to help their big industrial customers, their business customers, get the most bang for their buck out of the resources they do have, in addition to just providing direct incentives and in addition to just providing cost reductions.
And I'd like to say at this point, you know, if folks want to ask a question, we have at this point a small enough group. If you just want to unmute yourself and pose a question, feel free to do that. We are now in the Q&A open discussion portion of our forum.
I will say, Andrea, you know, being part of the city government and in the same building definitely gets a lot of, you know, access to our team, but she's really not getting a level of service that other customers aren't. So she definitely takes advantage of it and knows how to take advantage of it. But, you know, I've worked with commercial customers in terms of answering questions on their sustainability planning, on answering questions on demand charges. So one of the other sort of benefits CCAs provide is they really help the knowledge about energy, because now there is a choice. People start asking questions, they have access to this additional resource. So customers are also getting a lot of information and value from me and my equivalents at the other CCAs as well. So it's certainly something our private sector business customers can also take advantage of.
Other questions? I guess I have kind of a question for Andrea. Andrea, is the city looking at all, and maybe you said this and I missed it, but is the city looking at its own facilities, like rooftops of municipally owned buildings and whatnot, or parking lots or anything like that, for developing resources within the city of San Jose in collaboration with San Jose Clean Energy?
Yeah, right now we're a little resource challenged in terms of the cash. So it may be a little bit farther off in the future. Sorry for the calendar reminder ding there. So our climate smart San Jose plan had included kind of a directive to look at all of our rooftop space as potential. At that time, it was looking at solar potential. Right now, of course, we would look at solar and storage, and you know, possibly looking at, you know, community solar with microgrids or something that ties in some other benefits, not just straight out solar. So we're looking at it more from a resiliency standpoint, and looking at our portfolio, trying to develop some holistic plans, but it's more in the planning and stages, not quite in implementation. So a little further out in the future for us.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Well, it is 2 o'clock, and we had allowed ourselves till 2:30 for this one, but maybe we can wrap early if there are no other questions. Davis, any closing remarks from you?
No, just excited to be on another Zoom call talking about community choice energy. I was gonna say I'll put my information down in the chat again for any Stockton folks that are still on and want to chat one-on-one, learn a little bit more. Yeah, excited to keep learning more and following the updates in Stockton.
Right. Stay tuned. We will be circling back and hosting additional public-facing forums and whatnot in early 2021 as things progress in the city of Stockton. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. And with that, we will close the forum. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.